So this is a video I have seen everybody on YouTube that I watch do, and I just have to throw in my 2 cents. Today we're going to be talking about if I can only keep one palette from every brand in my collection, which palette would I keep? It's all theoretical, of course, but I'm excited to show you guys my top palettes in every brand that I own. And if you guys are interested, then just keep watching. If this is your first time here, hi, my name is Heather. I love all things makeup, especially colorful makeup and indie brands. And if you guys love those things too, I really hope you will subscribe, click the little bell so you can be notified of all of my future uploads. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this video. So I have 18 palettes here, so that's 18 brands. If I could only keep one palette, which would I keep? Some of these are super easy, some of them super hard, but why don't we go ahead and start this out with the palette that I actually have on my eyes today, if I can find it. So we're going to talk about Unearthly Cosmetics. So you guys know that Unearthly is one of my top favorite brands. And this was kind of hard to do because there's so many palettes from them that I love. First of all, these palettes that came out in, was it 2022? And I love them so much. But I had to go with this one. I had to go with the Devour. Like I said, this is what's on my eyes today. I'm wearing Devour in the crease, a little bit of Carnivore on the outer corner, and then I have Demolish on the outside part of the lid, and then Trap all over the rest of the lid with a little bit of Snack in the inner corner. And I love this look so much. Love this freaking palette. It's one of my favorite color stories in my whole collection. And Unearthly is my favorite brand for a reason. I love their mattes and their shimmer formulas. I love a lot of their products, their lip liners, their glosses, their liquid lipstick formula is one of the best that I have. It is the best that I have in my collection. I really love the bullet lipsticks, the what else is the low light highlighters. I love their blush. Like the list goes on and on and on. I do have a code with Unearthly as well, and it is AOML, and it will save you guys 10% if you use it. I really do appreciate it because it is affiliated, and I will make a small kickback. But I thought this palette was gone forever, and I was recently on a live with her on Instagram, and she said that this palette will actually be back in mid-April, and I'm so freaking excited because I want everyone to have this palette. It is so freaking spectacular, and that is why if something happened and I had to get rid of all my palettes, which I would be so devastated, I would keep this one. Now, I did this like if I had 2 or more palettes. I've seen people do it the same way I'm doing it. I've seen people do it as they had to have like 5 or more, and I've seen people like pick out stuff so their collection would be like more curated and they would have like all the different colors. But me, I just picked my favorite palette from each brand, and it just made more sense that way for me. But next, let's talk about Kidos. I only have 2 palettes from Kidos, and I love them both dearly. But if I could only pick one, it would be the Club Nebula. This is the first palette I ever picked up from them, and you can see like I've hit pan on like 5 or 6 shades in here. This was done in collaboration with Angelica Nikovas, and I think she killed it. I love the packaging. I love the artwork, the color story. This palette is the palette that made me fall in love with blue eyeshadow, and now that is my favorite color eyeshadow to wear. I just use this so much, and if something ever happened and I lost this palette, this would be one of those palettes that I would buy overpriced on Mercari. Don't even get me started on those people that make me so angry selling like like I think I paid like 50 or 60 for this palette, and I've seen it on there for over $100, which is like, why? But that's just people trying to get ahead. I guess, but I would pay it for that because that palette is freaking spectacular and I love it so much. Next, let's talk about Lunard Beauty. I have quite a few palettes from Lunard Beauty, 4 or 5, and the one that I would pick if I had to get rid of all of them, I would keep the Siren Sunset. It has blue eyeshadow and purples, two of my favorite colors, but even the neutrals in here really captivate me. I love how grungy they are. The shade up here called Current is really pretty, and Merman, and I like that he stepped out of the box with this one. You have some multi-chromes in here, and I just think this palette is really beautiful. And it's one, if it was gone, I would definitely consider repurchasing it. I just think it's really beautiful. He did a great job on the artwork. And then you have like the little mermaid jumping, not the little mermaid, but you have the mermaid jumping in the water in the back. I just love this, and I think it's so beautiful. So Ace Beauté, I only have 2 palettes from them. They're a brand I definitely want to get more from, and because I love so many of their color stories. But out of the 2 I had to go with the Ambiance palette. This palette is so freaking stunning. I love this color story. It is one of my favorite color stories in my collection. Love the grungy, everything about this palette is grungy. These 2 colors together are absolutely beautiful. It's one of my favorite color combos to wear, like this in the inner portion of the crease, this in the outer portion, and then maybe one of these shimmers on the lid. I just think this palette is freaking stunning. I love the Ace Beauty formula. I highly recommend this one. I'm just really happy to have that in my collection. That was an easy decision to make. Nomad was a little harder though, if I'm going to be honest. I have quite a few palettes from Nomad, but the one I decided to go with was the Nomad New Zealand Stargazing palette. I considered going with the new Atlantic Ireland Way because I really loved that one, but there's just something about this one. I feel like it has a lot more like different types of looks you can get out of it. Versatility, I think, is the word I'm looking for. The shimmers in here are so pretty. You have some multi-chromes and duochromes. This shade down here is so beautiful. I've loved the looks that I've created with this. You guys know I'm not like crazy about gray eyeshadow, but even in this one, the gray does make sense. So I just think this palette is beautiful. And if it were gone, I would totally pick it up. I thought about doing the Royal Europe palette, but this one goes from like light to deep, and that's something I really need and love in my palettes. So because the Royal Europe does not, I had to go with this one. Sigma is another brand that I really like, but I only have 2 palettes from them at this very moment. And the one I decided to go with was the COR-DE-ROSA. I love this. This palette is so beautiful. You guys know how much I love orange eyeshadow, but the looks that I've created with this have been so beautiful. I really love the brushes that come in their palette as well. It's double-sided, so they're like, you could use them for your whole look if you wanted to. I just think they're really great. This is actually the one that comes in this palette. But this palette is so freaking beautiful, and there's no way I could ever get rid of this one. If I could only keep one, it would definitely be this. I love everything about it. I really want to get the COR-DE-ROSA blush as well. I have it in the cream formula, but I would love to try the powder version. Next is Gourmand Girls, and this was so freaking easy. I had to go with the Nueva Vita. This was done in collaboration with Steph's Beauty Stash. I do have a video out on this one, and I also have a video with that Nomad palette and the Devour palette and the Lunard Beauty palette. I'll try to have all of the like corresponding videos linked down below. But man, she knocked it out of the park with this color story. She really did something. I don't have anything like this in my collection. It is so freaking beautiful. And I would definitely, without a doubt, repurchase this if something happened to it. But if I could only keep one palette from Gourmand Girls, it would totally be this one. I just think it's spectacular. This palette has me really excited to try more from the brand, and I can't wait to see what else they come out with. It's just so freaking beautiful. Natasha Denona. This one was easy for me too. It's my favorite Natasha Denona palette, and that would be the My Dream palette. Love the artwork, the paint splatter. I think it's so pretty, so unique, but this palette is so freaking beautiful. Mine's a little messy again, but I just think it's so beautiful. I love that she even has this little like green to like purple multi-chrome. If I'm gonna go for a neutral palette, it's gonna be one like this because I love that she added the pops of color. Love the warm tones in here. It goes from really light to really dark. So if I could only keep like one Natasha Denona palette, it would be this one. But now let's talk about Adept Cosmetics. This was so freaking easy for me. This is such a gorgeous palette, and it is the Heather Austin palette. She really knocked it out of the park with this one too. Adept shimmers are some of the best shimmers I've ever used. They are spectacular. But one thing about Adept is their palettes never go deep enough for me in the mattes. And Heather, like I said, knocked it out of the park with this one because it does go from light to deep, which makes me super freaking happy. I don't like the fact that it's so shimmer heavy, but these shimmers are so special that I honestly don't mind it. But this is so beautiful, and I think this one's still available too. So if it is, I'll have it linked down below along with all of the other palettes that I've talked about here. Ooh, let's talk about another one of my favorite brands. That is Bella Beauty Bar, and this was so easy. It's the Dead Roses palette. This is the best palette I've bought this year. I love this so freaking much. From this angle, it looks like it's all like pink and they're all the same, or like pink, purple, and red shades. But trust me when I tell you, it's really not. Like the flips on these multi-chromes are so freaking insane. They're the best multi-chromes that I have in my collection. They're very smooth. They don't give you texture on your eyelids. The flips are so prominent. They're so beautiful, and I just love this so much. Such a freaking great palette. I also have a code with them, and it is the same, and I will have it linked down below in my description box. But I love this freaking palette so much, and I seen that they're a sneak peeking. They're relaunching the Secret Garden, and I do not have that one, so I'm really excited about that. And I'm definitely going to be doing a video. I think it comes out in April, so you guys can keep an eye out for that. I'm really excited. But next, let's talk about Cosmic Beauty, formerly known as Cosmic Brushes. And this one was hard for me because Cosmic Beauty has quite a few palettes that I really love. And I went back and forth on this like so hard, but it's definitely going to be the Muse palette. This palette is so beautiful. And I'm really going back and forth in between this one and Serenity, but I think I'm going to stick with this one. I would be sad if I lost Serenity. I would probably rebuy it like as soon as I could, but this one is beautiful. I really love this color story. It reminds me of like a fairy garden. It's so beautiful. There's something about like these pinks and purples with these greens and the mustard shade. I just think it's so pretty. It's so unexpected, and I just feel like she did such a great job. These palettes are really affordable. If you look at the price of like indie brands and their palettes right now, you're looking at $60 to $100 for an eyeshadow palette. These ones are around 30. They have multi-chromes and everything, and her formula is freaking spectacular. I could not recommend it more. It's so freaking good. Next, let's talk about Odins Eye. I actually just did a Odins Eye ranking, and that video should already be up. But if it is, you already know what palette I'm going to say, and that is the Hella palette. This was done in collaboration with Angelica Nikovist. Again, see, both of her palettes made it into this video, but I just think this is so freaking beautiful. And as I mentioned in that ranking video, if you haven't seen it, it's something, these like swampy greens and the yellows, and you have this mustard shade down here mixed with these pinks. I never thought about combining those colors. I've done like those pink shades with just a straight up green or a neon green, and I've loved those looks. But those pinks with these swampy shades, I love the looks that I've created out of this. And Odins Eye is actually, I don't know when this video is going to go up, but from the 29th of March until April 1st, they are doing mystery boxes, and some of those boxes will be having this palette in there. So if you have time to pick them up, if it's not too late, by the time I post this, I highly recommend trying to get your hands on one of those if you haven't yet. If you love that color story, you're going to freaking lose your mind over that palette. So we have 6 brands left. The next one is Juvia's Place. To be honest, I like Juvia's Place, but they're not a brand that I feel like really inspired by anymore. So if I like had to get rid of palettes, I probably could get rid of all of them and forget that I ever even had them. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to say if I could only keep one palette, what would I keep? It would be this palette. This is the Berries palette. I do really enjoy this palette, but I always use it in combination with the palette that they came out with. I think it's called the Sweet Pinks. But I just think this palette is really beautiful. I love one of the looks that I created with it a few years, well, God, it's been 5 years now when I first picked this up. But I think it's pretty, but honestly, I don't really care if I'm going to be honest. So it's whatever. I had to pick one. And then we have Lethal Cosmetics. I think this is called the Evergreen palette. I'll pop the name up here on the screen. I wish they would put the names on their palettes, but I love this palette so freaking much. It is my favorite from the brand, and I do have quite a few. This palette is so beautiful. I told you guys I love the blues, but I also love the greens in here and this neon pop along with this shade right here. The shimmers are really, really pretty, and I really like the Lethal formula. I'm really happy with this. I just wish they would put the names on their palettes. I think they don't do that so people can like switch stuff around because the pans in here are magnetic, but I just wish they would put the name, like put it on the back or something. But if I could only keep one, it would definitely be this one. So this is the only like other neutral kind of palette that I picked for this video. And it is a palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. And I had to go with the Jackie Aina palette. This is the best palette I think that they've ever came out with. But it's kind of neutral, kind of not. It has the neutrals, but it also has this grungy side. And I've said it 100 times in this video. I love the grungy neutrals. But this palette is so beautiful. You can see I have hit pan in a couple of shades in here. I just think it's amazing. I hate the brushes that come in this palette. They're not as nowhere near as good as the ones from Sigma, but this color story is so freaking beautiful, and I really love this packaging as well. And if something happened to that one, I would be so sad. I would totally miss it. Out of my 30 or more ColourPop palettes, the first palette that popped into my mind when I thought of this video was the At Forest Sight palette. This was done in collaboration with Raw Beauty Christie. I love the mushrooms on here so much. I mean, you could probably tell, but this color story is so freaking beautiful. And it's really similar to the one from Lunard Beauty. I haven't gotten that palette in yet, but I am going to be doing comparisons in that video. If it's already up, I'll pop up a card so you guys can click that link and watch it. But I don't think it'll be up by the time this video goes up. But at the time this palette was released, this was such a unique color story, and she just knocked it out of the park. I love this palette so much, and it's the best palette I think that ColourPop has ever released. Not even just out of the ones that I have now. It's their best work, and I think it's because of Raw Beauty Christie. She freaking killed it. I just love that palette. If I lost that palette, I think I would be sick. I know that sounds very like extreme, but I really do love that palette. Raw Beauty Christie was one of the first people I started watching too. So I also think I feel an attachment towards it because of that. But I just love it, and I think she did a great job. So next, let's talk about GLAMLITE. I know a lot of you probably already know what palette I'm going to say, but it is Garfield palette. I bought this palette solely to make a video, I'm going to be honest, but this palette took me by surprise. This color story, I wasn't expecting this collection at all, but this color story is freaking incredible. These shimmers in here, I can't even begin to explain to you how freaking wonderful they are. Let me see if I could do a few like little swatches, but look at that. They're so beautiful. I just love them so much. They are like they're so like high shine and reflective and just so beautiful. Like, oh my god. That is the best palette I think they've ever came out with. And I love a lot of their palettes, but that one, there's something about it. If you picked up the Betty Boop, the quality is just as good as that one. Maybe even a little better because of these shimmers, but you cannot go wrong with this, and I would rebuy this in a freaking heartbeat if something ever happened to it. But if I could only keep one, I would definitely keep that one, and that was pretty easy. And I have like close to 30 palettes from GLAMLITE, but there's no way I would ever let go of that one. Last brand here, and it is BLENDBUNNY Cosmetics. And honestly, this one was really easy too, but I really love this palette. And it is the Sugar and Grunge, the one that's causing BLENDBUNNY all kinds of trouble. They're being sued. Well, someone threatened to sue them for using the word grunge. So she has discontinued this, but I'm pretty sure she's just going to change the name of it and then re-release it. But I think this palette is so beautiful. And I bought it because I love the packaging. It reminds me of my grandma, and my grandma was not your typical grandma. She was the best, but it reminded me of her, and it's 90s themed, and I was born in 88, so I am a 90s kid, and there was no way I could pass it up. Plus the word grunge, it sold me. And I love this palette way more than I ever expected to. I did a look with the green row and then this pink shimmer on the lid. And that look was freaking beautiful. It's over on my Instagram if you guys want to check me out over there. But I would not get rid of this because I cannot buy it back. And there's no way I'm letting that one go. Easiest decision I've ever made. But that is it. That is all the palettes I have to talk about, all the brands that I have 2 or more like palettes from. But let me know down below all of your answers. What would you guys keep if you could only keep one palette from each brand? I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way till the end. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. It really does help me out, and I really do appreciate it. But thank you guys so much for everything. And until next time, bye.